we are here in Infini Magazine in our What Shall We Read segment. Now, we all know that the month of October has been set aside to bring awareness to domestic violence. I personally feel that every month this topic should be discussed in an effort to discover ways to bring it to an end. Today I'm speaking with my special guest, Author Kmetris, and she's from Chicago, and we're going to be talking about her first published literary work, Screaming from the Inside. Her book was released on July 26th of this year, and it details her personal story of how she overcame molestation, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and domestic violence. And Kmetris is here now. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Ms. Amitra. Thank you so much for having me on today. Hello, everyone.
And thank you for stopping in to do this interview. Very much appreciated. I was excited because rarely do you have anyone that endures some of the things that was endured in the book to actually come out, and it is so very much needed. It is so very much needed, and it's time to bring things out to the light, and things that are done in the dark, in darkness. We can bring light to that situation, and also in an effort to help inspire and help someone. What inspired you to open up about when you had to endure and publish your story into a book?
Like you just mentioned, it's not being talked about. And for me, I suffered in silence for years. And like you mentioned, the name of my book is Screaming from the Inside. So I was screaming from the inside, but no one could hear me. And then I began to come across others who were suffering in silence as well, because as we all know, we tend to brush things under the rug as if nothing is happening, especially in the African American family or community. And so because we've been taught that you just kind of keep it on the back burner, this is the kind of thing that happens, and it's no big deal. Well, but what happens, it affects us. And what happened to me affected every part of my life. It affected my relationships with people. It affected my my upbringing. It affected how my esteem, my self-esteem. And so at some point I had to acknowledge the truth about what happened to me so that I could process it, so that I could overcome it. And so what had happened, it was God inspired back in 2016. God began to deal with me, and how he dealt with me, I began to have dreams and visions of women and of children that were being abused and that needed to be rescued. And I'm like, why am I having these? And God began to show me, you need to start sharing. You need to start sharing your story. And so initially it started with me just posting. And I started posting the difference between secrecy and privacy, and how we have these secrets and literally destroying us from the inside out. So that's how it started.
I agree 100%. And to our listeners out there, my question was actually down the road, but I should have mentioned it earlier, that the title, Screaming from the Inside, is based off of a true story. It's based off a based off a portion of your life. And so I wanted to make sure that I brought that up. That was really supposed to be the first thing that I said, but you summed it up. Okay, now how long did it take for you to decide to move forward with Screaming from the Inside, to actually put it into, book format? Was there like years and months, or right at the moment when you had your dreams, you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
Exactly. So in 2016, when God began to reveal to me about talking about it, at that moment, I did not know I was going to write a book.
Okay.
I've never written a book. Actually, in 2016, I was introduced to a young lady that was doing a book collaboration, and she was looking for 25 women to share their story. So I told a portion of my story in a book collaboration along with with 24 other women. And that was just a portion, and that's what began my writing journey. But I did not know that I was going to end up writing my own book. And so, of course, I began writing my book hesitantly at the end of 2018 and published it because it's a very quick read, and it's a very quick read and a help tool for those that want to heal and overcome any form of abuse. Yeah.
Okay. Right. I was thinking about that because I know it was like just multiple, and I said some people are at least have one of these things that they're dealing with. And when I saw it, the title itself speaks volume. Like if you just had in the cover, but the title itself speaks. And one of my questions was going to be, how did you come up with a title that pretty much sums it up? But you explained earlier that because you were silently suffering from that, you were screaming on the inside because of the things that you had to endure, and that's what a lot of people do, or a lot of us, especially like you said in the Black community, the African American community, we are conditioned to hold so much in, and the saying of turn the other cheek. But sometimes you can turn the other cheek so many times, but it becomes abuse, or it is abuse. So I was going to say that I love that title. That title speaks volume. And now, what age group would you recommend to read your book? I know abuse ranges in different ages. What is the youngest age that you feel your book is suitable for?
So I began being abused at the age of 10. And so even if your child, so I would say 10, or I would say that the parent should read the book and let it be a tool, because I give statistics in the book. I share notes with the parent on how to prevent these things from happening to their children. So the parent, even though the child can't read, they should be teaching their children from a small age, as early as when they start talking about their body parts and how no one should be violating or touching them in their private areas. Absolutely. A 10-year-old, just like a young lady that's very dear to me, who've experienced the same thing I've experienced, and she has children, and she got my book, and she wrote a post one day on Facebook just letting me know how, I'm trying to remember how old her daughter is. I think she's around 10 or 11. She said, honey, she took your book, read it, and walked around with it for a whole week. Yeah. And she said, but it opened up a discussion in their home to talk about it. So,
and we have to they know a lot more than what we think, even in what they hear in school. So I think that 10, and if they're a little younger and more mature and know and aware of what's going on, or they start throwing out those hints like so and so said this, then you're like, okay, it's time to have that talk. I taught my husband too. Don't let nobody.
I started with my children very young because it happened to me. I'm like, no, this isn't happening to my children, or we're going to have a problem. And so I started when they were very young, 3 and 4 years old, talking to them about that.
Right. Were there any difficulties that you faced while writing your story, like any obstacles or things that made you say, you know what, I can't do it?
Yes. Like I said, I struggled because I knew I was going to have to face some memories that I buried. I knew, and how the Lord dealt with me was that, this is bigger than you.
Okay.
This is bigger than you. You're going to help so many people. And I went to a conference. I ended up at a conference. It's a bizarre way how I ended up at a conference. And this woman that came all the way from Atlanta, I never met in my life. This is at the end of 2018. 18. Never met her, and she called me out and said, "There's a book in you." Now she don't know me, nothing. She said, "There's a book in you. Something happened to you when you were a little girl." She said, "You have a story to tell that's going to help so many women and children." I just cried like a baby. So that gave me I'm like, okay, Lord, I hear you. And I began to write, but I had some moments, Miss Amitra. I had some moments where I broke down and cried. And God was like, it's going to help so many others. Will you do it to help someone else? And I said, yes, I will do it. And that's what got me through it, thinking about some other child, thinking about some other woman or man. Because I've come in contact with men that have, since my book has come out, men have confessed to me things that have happened to them as children by women or by other men, by the babysitter. And so when the Lord brings something to you like that and say, can you do it for someone else? Well, of course I will, because my heart, I don't want someone to go through what I went through, or I want to see them healed if they've been through it. And so, yes, there were days like when I finished writing in the beginning of the book, I tell the story. Miss Anitra, when I finished writing the story, which is all of the details, right? I could not write for a month. I had to weep. I had to get it out of my system, because after that I was able to talk about the healing and the overcoming process. So yes, it was very difficult. Very.
And it's almost also therapeutic at the same time, because you, like you said, you weep. So as you told your story and you wrote your story, unfortunately you had to relive it. But at the same time, as a releasement, you were able to release those things that you had, like you said, swept under, or I'm going to put it in the back of my mind. I don't even want to revisit this anymore. But because you had to, because God says you had to. At the same time, I love how He operates, because I'm going to also use this is going to be a part of her healing process as well, and where it's actually therapeutic at the same time. So that's really good. And like I said, I haven't read the story yet, but I am definitely planning to. And when I talked earlier about the title, but the book cover, that book cover gave me the chills. And knowing this is a must-read, I have a son, but I also have two daughters, and now my daughters are 13 and 15. And I've always been really, really protective over, especially my youngest, because my 50-year-old, she loves the fact that I'm protective. But my youngest, I don't want to. I don't want to have to, smother them, anything like that. But I do also know that, especially now, it's just so much going on. And, you have to still be careful, be mindful of the different things, and know that everyone is not kind-hearted, even when it comes to children. And so when I saw that cover, and I mean, her hair and the puffs, and I'm like, this looks like my daughter, And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. And so, I just wanted to let the listeners know, get that book, So and use it as a self-help tool, or on a need to know. We just cannot keep brushing this type of stuff under the rug. Are you able to read a small excerpt from your book?
You cannot overcome what you will not face. But I'm going to read an excerpt too. But that I always like to use that, because acknowledgement is the first step to our healing and overcoming. Acknowledgement is the first step. And then the process, which means we have to do the work. Everybody goes through things. Some of us have been victims. Like I said, I was 10. I didn't ask for this. You may not have asked for this. To the listeners, you may not have asked for certain things to happen to you. It was no fault of your own. However, your healing is up to you. It's your responsibility to be healed, which means you have to acknowledge your pain. You have to acknowledge the things that have happened to you. You have to face the truth and admit it so that you can process it, so that you can overcome it. And so that's how we overcome, by acknowledging. That's how we heal, by acknowledging. Is it easy? No, but that's my motto. We cannot overcome what we will not face.
Yes, so we go with that. We want them to buy that book, and they can. We want everyone, especially parents and even grandparents. There are a lot of grandparents raising their children. Purchase the book. Purchase the book. What you just read right there is like, that's enough said. And I'm ordering my book, and I want everyone to order their book. And we're going to talk about a little bit in a few how to purchase Screaming from the Inside. What advice can you tell anyone who is listening that, and we may have touched on this already, that may be dealing with one of the forms of abuse mentioned in your book? I know there were multiple forms, but what advice can you tell anyone who is listening that may be dealing with at least one?
Let's say, well, in all of them, there is a commonality for all abuse. And it's knowing the signs. You have to know the signs. In the statistics, I put, look closer. Usually, 9 times out of 10, abuse starts, it's not a stranger. It's someone that's close to us. It's someone that we trust. And so I would say, look at the signs. If it's a domestic relationship with you're in a relationship with a male or female, look at the signs. How does this person conduct themselves? How do they act, or how do they react or respond to disagreement? Don't look at the person for what you want them to be, but look at them for who they are. Because especially as women, we feel like we can change folk. We feel like we can, it's going to get better. He's not like that. And I know there are men that are being abused too domestically. But look at what you have right in front of you. Don't try to make it be something that it isn't. Know the signs. If they cuss you out, if they'll cuss you out, they will hit you.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. We have to know and to not ignore them because you feel like, well, they're just having a bad day or moment. No, those bad days and those moments can turn into pure hell, where you can find yourself in bondage, captivity, and no way out. If they isolate you, that's a sign. And we're talking about domestic violence here. But even just with physical abuse, with spiritual abuse, we're talking about manipulation. We're talking about people isolating you from your family and your friends. So look at those signs, pinpoint them. Do not ignore them. Do not ignore them. So that would be my advice. Do not ignore the signs. Don't try to make the person be who you want them to be, but look at them. Because what did Maya Angelou say? When someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Believe them. Absolutely. Oh, my God. I love this interview. So, okay, now when you first received your official copy of your book, how did that make you feel? Like when you had I think there's not the galley, but once it's a done deal, you get your first copy before anyone else see it, and you got it in your hand.
I could not believe it. I was crying, laughing, smiling, jumping, praising, calling people.
Yes.
I was so excited. I'm like, I'm an author. I could not believe it. And so just grateful and thankful to God, because one thing you got to know, Ms. Kmetris, is that anytime you're doing anything, there's going to come opposition. You're going to have people are going to fight against you. Like, why are you talking about that? Why are you bringing this up after all these years? Why?
What's your agenda? What's your motive? Absolutely.
Yep. And so, but I was excited. I cried, I praised, all of it.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, now, do you feel some sort of closure from telling your story in print? Like now that everything is over done with, and of course I know you're in the marketing now. Like I got to get the book out there now. I got to get people to read it. Do you feel some sort of closure from finally releasing all of that and putting it into your literary work?
Yes, absolutely. And it's such a load off. And when you know that you did what you heard the Lord tell you to
Yes.
do, then, and this is the thing about manifestation. Manifestation cannot happen until after you do it. You won't see the manifestation. Remember, I told you, God spoke to me and said, it's bigger than you and it's going to help. As soon as I release it, as soon as people begin to read it, I begin to get inboxes. I begin to get phone calls. I meet family members, people I have never met in my life because others were sharing it, begin to reach out to me and tell me their stories and how it was helping them. I mean, I have so many reviews. That made my heart so glad to know that it was people, because I knew God had spoke to me and said that was the whole point of it all, that you can help. And so I'm just so grateful that I'm no longer screaming from the inside, but my inside voice has an outside voice now to help others overcome.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so
absolutely.
I'm happy.
And I'm thinking of that little girl, and I kind of figured, I said, she looks about 10. And I mean, I just love the whole thing, the fact that, you know, of course I hate that anyone will have to endure that, but I'm glad you actually, you know, responded to what you heard to help others, and the outpour of people coming to you and they're inspired, and, you know, even if you help just one person at a time. And now hearing what you're saying is that you're reaching the masses. And I want to make sure that also those who are listening here can also be a part of that. Like, how may we connect with you online, or what social media, if you have a website address, how can those who are listening connect with you, or, you know, or get in contact with you to talk about, you know, your book and the different things that you've been experiencing since you actually released your book?
Okay, everyone, you can connect with me on Facebook under my name, Kmetris Hunt. That's Kmetris Hunt. You can also connect with me on Instagram under Kmetris Hunt. And you can get my book off of Amazon.com under my name, Kmetris Hunt. I also have 2 singles that are on Amazon as well, or you can go and listen to them on YouTube. I have a single called Favor of God, and I have a single called More Than a Conqueror, and both of those songs are very encouraging. If you just need encouragement, or you need to be inspired, go and listen to those songs. You can go and pull them up on YouTube and listen to them, or if you would like to purchase them for 99 cents, you can go on Amazon.com or cdbaby.com. But like I said, the book is available on Amazon.com, Screaming from the Inside. My name is Kmetris Hunt. Connect with me on Facebook and connect with me on Instagram.
Okay, great. And give us the titles of the songs one more time.
I have a song called Favor of God and More Than a Conqueror.
Okay, great. I'm going to check those out as well. So you heard that, listeners. Let's connect. And now, do you have any upcoming book signings or speaking engagements to look out for?
I will be, this Sunday, I will be on AM Radio 1570, and I will be talking about domestic violence at 1 p.m., so if you can tune in there. And also, I will be doing an interview at the library on 95th and Halsted. It's going to end up being on CAN TV. So if you connect with me, I'll be able to share those links when the CAN TV interview comes out. I'll be talking about my book on there, and then I'll be doing an upcoming tour in 2020 with my book, where I'll be going throughout the Chicagoland, Indiana area on tour with a young lady that I met who owns her own publishing company. to Neil Jackson. So I will be doing that. And on December 6th, I will be singing somewhere. So I minister in song, and I minister about my book. And, yeah, and I'm open to, if any of you all know of any where I, you would like for me to talk about this further, just inbox me. You can inbox me at Kmetris Hunt, and I would love to share. I'm looking for more avenues and where I can share my story and in efforts to help other women, men, and children.
Okay, sounds great. And the last question is, are there any closing words you'd like to say to our listeners?
Once again, just want to reiterate my motto. You cannot overcome what you will not face. Whatever it is, God has given you the strength to overcome it, to face it and overcome it. The power is within you. He's given you dominion. He's given you authority. There is absolutely nothing too hard for God. The Bible declares that you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. He's giving you the power, and he's giving you the authority to do it. So be blessed, be healed. May the Lord prosper you. May the Lord keep you, and may you overcome in this season in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, it has been a pleasure having you on as a guest to share your literary work. And again, I will be grabbing my copy and asking our listeners to grab their copies as well. And it's, again, available on Amazon.com. Tell us the title one more time.
Screaming from the Inside.
Screaming from the Inside.